spirituality, and we honor their continuing presence among us by keeping them in mind whenever we gather.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to sing Come, Come, Whoever You Are now. And I just realized we didn't have hymnals outside. So I just wheeled the card out. But many of you might know it by heart. So I invite you to join me, especially if you're in the choir. And Becky's coming around with hymnals. Thank you, Becky. We'll sing through it a few times until we've had our fill of it. And if you're inspired to sing in the round, this one works as a round, so feel free to do that. Okay. It's number 188. And I'm just going to start singing. And if and when you have a book, please join me. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come yet again, come.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, choir members and everyone else. And once again, good morning and welcome to the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist All Access Sunday service. So all access means that on beautiful days like today, we're going to try to have some of the service outside. So that's going to happen every Sunday until it gets too cold or until things change. So bring a chair and join us outside, and welcome to those of you outside this morning, and also welcome to those of you online. If this is your first time and you are here with us in person, and you'd like to get our weekly email blast, just sign up. There's a book inside. And if you are online and joining us for the first time, drop us an email on our website and we'll be sure to send you that blast. My name is Becky Strum. I am a member of this congregation, and this morning I'll be serving as worship associate for our settled minister, the Reverend Barnaby Feeder. Boy, this morning as I stand here, the day after the 20th anniversary of the tragic events of September 11th, 2001, in the midst of a global pandemic and climate crisis, in a world and a country divided in so many ways, I am so grateful for this community, where we are inspired to deepen our understanding and expand our vision while promising to one another our mutual trust and support. And I want to thank everyone who is helping to make these online and all access services possible. And today, Thank you to Ronnie and the CVUUS Choir, Habaraz Sarit Hatsu for special music, Margie Young, Sherman LaRose, Rich Wolfson, Abby Sessions for technical support, Marnie Wood for flowers, and Neil Chippendale for hosting Zoom. So speaking of Zoom, a way to stay connected, a new pathway to connection, we are looking for 2 new entry-level folks to learn how to operate the camera and the Zoom coffee hour. If you've been enjoying, if you've been being with us online, this is a way to really become a part of this, and so that we can continue our all access. And if you're interested, contact Abby Sessions for more information and possibly a pep talk. Choir rehearsal continues on Wednesdays in person, outdoors. Come to the CSAC tent at 109 Catamount Park off Exchange Street at 5:30 on Wednesdays. And choir will be following COVID protocols. We welcome prior and new choir members to this practice. Our call to worship today, a place to forgive and be forgiven, is a responsive reading. You'll find the reading in our OOS, and I'm pretty sure in the chat online. As I read the first lines of each section, please respond with the words in italics. For those we have hurt in any way, whether through word, deed, or thoughts, here is the place to forgive and
to be forgiven.
for the excuses we have made just to be right,
Here is a place to forgive and be forgiven.
for the blame we have placed on someone else again and again,
Here is a place to forgive and be forgiven.
for passing up the opportunity to help because we were afraid,
Here is a place to forgive and be forgiven.
for hiding the truth from someone,
Here is a place to forgive and be forgiven.
for not working beyond the anger and resentment,
Here is a place to forgive and to be forgiven.
for the times I have not felt heard,
Here is a place to forgive and to be forgiven.
Forgiveness is never easy, whether for yourself or for someone else.
Here is a place to forgive and be forgiven.
As we light our chalice, Reverend Barnaby is going to go inside and light, because it's a little windy to light it, but the folks on Zoom, I think, will be able to see it, maybe not. Anyway, as we light our chalice, a symbol of Unitarian Universalism, please join me again with the words in your order of service, or if you're online, on the chat. We light our chalice, symbol of faith, for truth, sought through a questioning heart and an attentive mind. Does everybody find that? And for love, pursued through obstacles, inside and outside our own human heart. And for forgiveness and all it entails, the place where truth and love meet and merge. So Poppy is ill and not able to be with us today. So Ronnie is going to sing or lead, have the choir join Ronnie.
All right, everyone, we're going to do Let Us Open Our Eyes, and I encourage you all to sing along with me. I'm going to sing it through twice. Here we go.
Folks to stand.
Sure, stand. Yeah. Standing is great for singing. More room for air. Here we go. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to seek what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. and may we walk in. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to see what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. And may we walk in peace.
When we think about the challenging and for some folks, traumatic lives we are living today, it's important for a multi-generational group like our congregation to stay in touch with the reality of how differently children process experiences that we all are sharing. I want to remind us today, while also taking time to recall the terrorist attacks of 20 years ago that were so widely commemorated in the anniversary yesterday, of how that can work. We are a big enough congregation that I wouldn't be surprised if someone here was more directly impacted by these attacks than I was, but I was there as a direct, distant eyewitness. I watched the Twin Towers burn and then collapse on that crystal clear day from a ridge 10 miles away in New Jersey, after being unable to reach my desk at the New York Times because the tunnels under the Hudson River were shut down soon after the first tower was struck. I spent the morning interviewing those around me and phoning reports into the news desk. In the following days, I contributed to articles about the ripple effects of the attacks, and then to the Times Portraits of Grief project, in which we published mini obituaries of everyone we could reach, any who had survivors, and that was the vast majority of the nearly 3,000 victims. I'll never forget those days, and especially the grief of the survivors that I spoke with for those all too brief portraits that I wrote. As it turned out, a neighbor of ours was one of those who died that day. And 4 years later, my daughter, Maddie, who was then 13 years old, wrote an incredibly moving account of how his death impacted her. Becky is going to share it with you, but before she does, I need to tell you one interesting fact about how we process pain and grief. Maddie, now 30, does not remember writing this.
Going to Seattle by Maddie Feeder. Abby lives in the green house with the purple trim and the big porch. There is a trampoline and a playhouse in the backyard for her kids. She is moving to Seattle soon, and she is glad to go. She says it makes her sad living in the house where he also once lived, the house where she was when she found out he was gone. Abby's Aaron has been gone for more than 3 years, but she cannot leave him behind when she has gone nowhere. There is too much sadness in that pretty house. What with Olivia, who is starting to forget her father, and Carter, who has already forgotten. On September 11th, 2001, a plane hit the World Trade Center, several floors below the office where Aaron Dack worked. Moments later, the telephone rang in the greenhouse with the purple trim. "I'm all right, Abby. I'm going to get out." She waited and waited, but he didn't come. He wasn't one of the lucky ones. He didn't make it out. So Abby is going to Seattle so she can put him behind her and be happy again.
to everyone, but especially to our children who may be seeing this later with their families. I want to say that we shared this story today because we want you to know that we will be there for you when you are sad or scared. We won't tell you to forget those feelings, but if you eventually do, we will tell you that happens sometimes. No one at CVUUS will tell you there is a right way or a wrong way to be sad. And by the way, Abby did go to Seattle. She wrote many articles and then a book about losing Aaron and how she coped. She also made a lot of beautiful artwork that had nothing to do with that day, at least visibly, and helped a lot of other artists get their projects launched. And she made a good life for Carter and Olivia. They are now young adults. So we had a plan for milestones and passages, which we were going to try to do outside today, that involved bringing back something that CVUUS did in the days when it was smaller and allowing individuals to light candles and share their joys and concerns outside with out aloud with the congregation. And we were going to try and do this outside, but it's a little bit windy for lighting candles. So in what happens all the time here in the age of COVID, we figured out how could we pivot. So this is what's going to happen. Liz Marino, Liz, will you please stand, is the person who I've been talking with about a long time about how we could reintroduce some of the candle lighting. And Liz is going to come up and share a milestone of her own. And then she's going to go inside and stand at a place where we're going to light the children's chalice instead of the one that's in the window here. And there's going to be this basket that I have over here, which is filled with battery operated candles. And everybody who wants to can stop by that table, light one of them, and then place them around the children's chalice as you go in to the sanctuary for the rest of the service. And I'm going to allow those of you who want to share the milestone that you're lighting the candle for to do it here, or you can just go in and light it there and share it quietly with Liz before you go into the service. Everybody who doesn't want to do that can just proceed into the sanctuary and wait there as Ronnie plays quietly, and then we'll have a time of silence. We'll come out of that with Sari singing, and she'll tell you a little bit about what she's going to sing right now before we go in.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarit Katsu. Some of you may know me as a staff member over at Havara, the Jewish congregation right in Middlebury. I'm the education director and the program and outreach director. So pretty much anything that happens over there, I have something to do with it. And I'm also a soloist for a High Holy Day pulpit up in Binghamton, where I did my undergraduate studies. So I was connected to be able to share some High Holy Day music with you today. So the first piece that I will be singing is called Tavo Lefanecha, and its text talks about coming together in a confessional sort of sense. The reading that we did earlier today was actually very apropos of all of those themes, sort of a self-reflection and accounting of who have I hurt, how can I do better, how can this new fresh year be a new beginning, and allowing ourselves to open ourselves up to owning some of our own flaws and accepting some of our own blame so that we can improve ourselves and therefore improve the world and community around us, which all seem to be very resonant themes with everything that I've heard here today. So I will be sharing that piece once we're inside, and then there's another piece that I'll share later that I'll give a little context for ahead of that as well. And thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, so let's start. Liz coming up and give an example of how we would share, and then you'll go on into your station to light the candle, and everybody else will have the opportunity to come here or simply go in quietly to light a candle or go right to your seats.
So I think I have to say that the joy I'm sharing with you today is the joy at an attempt to bring this custom back, because for me, it was a real connection to you. So that's my joy today.
You are liberated to come here or go in. It's time to move towards the inside portion of our service. And thank you for being out here.
I would like to share with everyone that the flowers today I enjoyed putting together, but the source of my abundance happens to be from Ravel. And the joy I had organizing the flowers into an arrangement yesterday was really deeply marvelous. If you can use that word, but a really deep experience on that particular day out that we were having yesterday, 9/11.
And I would like to, I was happy to be able to give the flowers for today, and I would like to dedicate them to the memory of my father, who was born 115 years ago, September 8th.
I would like to express my joy at music in general. Yesterday on public television, Verdi's Requiem was performed by the Metropolitan Opera. It was very moving.
So beautiful. This month, we have been supporting with our offering a group called Vital Voices Global Partnership. And this group has been going for a couple of decades, supporting women around the rest of the world who need political or economic or educational empowerment. During recent days, with the fall of Afghanistan, they pivoted a little bit to a project particularly trying to support women whose lives are endangered in various ways in Afghanistan. And that's the reason we chose them as our partner for our offering this month. And I invite you to be as generous as you're able today. For those of you who are here, you can give money in any form in the basket in front or at the back door there. You can also give money online at the site in the order of service, and the folks who are watching online will be able to see a slide reminding them of the ways that they can donate. So our offering will be received.
While our order of service says we have one reading, we actually have two readings today. Our first reading from Bill Bryson's A Short History of Nearly Everything, Riley spotlights what strange specimens we are of life on Earth. As humans, we are inclined to feel that life must have a point. We have plans and aspirations and desires. We want to take constant advantage of all the intoxicating existence we've been endowed with. But what's life to a lichen? Its impulse to exist, to be, is every bit as strong as ours, arguably even stronger. If I were told that I had to spend decades being a furry growth on a rock in the woods, I believe I would lose the will to go on. Lichens don't. Like virtually all living things, they will suffer any hardship, endure any insult for a moment's additional existence. Life, in short, just wants to be. But, and here's an interesting point, for the most part, it doesn't want to be much. Our second reading is from Afterlife, the latest novel by local author Julia Alvarez. The heroine, Antonia, is a recently retired English professor in a small Vermont town, struggling with her unexpected widowhood 9 months after her husband, Sam, a local doctor, died. Suddenly, she has also become engulfed in new challenges involving her far-flung sisters and local undocumented Mexican immigrants. Antonia recalls how patients would often call Sam in the middle of the night, full of dread over some pain or problem. He always managed to calm them down. What is it he would do that she can do now? Once she had asked him how he had navigated his way through such threatening moments in his life. He thought it over, then shook his head. All he could think of was what his mother would always say when she found herself in a tough situation. Drying her hands on her apron, well, let's just see what love can do.
So today's sermon is born of my sense that we are struggling in this pandemic, especially with how to be our best selves, individually and together. Our spirits are weighed down by social distancing and division and political lies and environmental destruction. And I'm not going to go on. What I'm going to say to you is that Judaism's high holy days have what appears to be an unwavering, battle-tested answer about what to do if we seek to turn away from folly and to lead more meaningful lives. But it's not an easy answer. The high holy days can roughly be described as grounded in an ancient view that our lives are in the hands of an all-powerful, all-knowing God who cares what we do. They are grounded as well in a belief that all of us will fail to do the right thing at times. Thus, our relationships with God and each other are frequently a source of pain and in need of repair. Now, here is how this plays out over the 8-day period, marking the beginning of the Jewish New Year. On the first day of the new year, Rosh Hashanah, Jews are supposed to begin a period of reflecting on where they have fallen short of obeying their God. This reflection is intended to pave the way to fully understanding their errors, honestly regretting them, and asking God to forgive them. But the genius, in my mind, of the high holy days lies in the belief that a God interested in our fate wants us to do some heavy lifting before expecting mercy and divine forgiveness. Yes, the rabbis say, you can come to God at the very end of the 8 days for forgiveness of your sins against God, and be likely to receive it. The Jewish God is merciful to those who have recently repented for their disobedience of divine commands. But true repentance is demonstrated by devoting most of the high holy days to repairing damaged relations with other people, each of whom is precious to God. Thus, the real work of high holy days is to sincerely seek forgiveness from other humans for your transgressions. And this could be even harder sometimes, to find it in your heart to forgive others their trespasses against you. Did I say this can be hard? It can be beyond hard. It can be beyond really hard. All of us realize at some level that we have harmed people we know, intentionally or not. And I have to believe that everyone is like me in having some memories of causing harm that are painful or embarrassing enough or so deeply packed away that we don't talk about them with anyone. It's a truly extraordinary and spiritual way to begin a New Year's celebration. Compare it to the prevailing New Year's customs in the United States. A single evening and day of partying, sports, shopping, and resolutions for self-improvement that could be about anything and are almost immediately forgotten. We're not accountable to the wider community for them the way you are in Judaism's high holy days. Which brings me to the radical part of my message this morning. I believe this ancient spiritual practice is all wrong about the God part. Now, I don't mean to say that it's untrue. It's just all wrong for me in understanding how the world works and what we're called to. However, it is so right about human nature. I wish we would really take it to heart as Unitarian Universalists. Now, this is a lot to ask you to take seriously. So let's start by taking a minute to talk about science and Bill Bryson's lichen. There is no role for the traditional God of Judaism or many religions in Bryson's sprawling account of how the universe began and life on earth has evolved. Where God is the answer for many people to open questions, Bryson prefers spotlighting all the things we don't know yet and some that we may never know, and then just leaving the questions with us. So no God or gods are the final answers in his construct, just natural wonder after natural wonder. Like lichens, which humans were surprised to discover not that long ago, were not one organism, not one thing, but intimate partnerships between fungi and algae. The fungi excrete substances that dissolve the surfaces of rocks, thus freeing minerals, which the algae convert into food for themselves with enough for the fungi. It's not a very exciting arrangement, Bryson writes, but it is a conspicuously successful one. Earth has more than 20,000 species of lichen. We need scientists and expert translators of their work into everyday language like Bryson to maintain perspective on who we are. It's sobering to realize that if Earth's multi-billion-year history is depicted as a single day, microbial life emerged surprisingly early at the equivalent of 4 a.m. That was not long after the Earth cooled enough for solid land to form. And life stayed that simple all the way till 8:30 p.m., 4 a.m. to 8:30 p.m., all single-celled life. Only then did things start popping in terms of multicellular complexity. The dinosaurs appeared shortly before 11 p.m. and dominated for about 45 minutes until the disastrous K2 meteor strike. Finally, the time had come for the age of mammals. But humans have only been a part of it for just over the last minute of this day. And just a few seconds of that minute account for all of recorded human history. Oh, and by the way, no matter how you look at it from this perspective, the planet still belongs overwhelmingly to the bacteria and other microbes. They even make up most of the cells in our bodies. We couldn't survive a day without them, although they survived billions of years without us and are likely to survive billions of years more. Life wants to be, Bryson concludes, but it doesn't want to be much. I disagree. We don't judge what life wants to be by the bulk weight or numbers of individuals or how long a species has persisted. We judge what life wants to be by studying those life forms that probe the most imaginative barriers, the most imaginative frontiers of desire and meaning, which on Earth at least is us. For better or worse, we are what life most wants to be right now in this corner of the universe. So we matter. That seemingly overwhelming challenge to our welfare and happiness we live in, however irrelevant it might be to most forms of life on Earth, that matters. We have only one hopeful way forward that makes sense to me. Well, as Antonia says in Julia Alvarez's novel Afterlife, let's see what love can do. To start with, you can put on your spiritual seatbelts here. To start with, I think love can restore the relevance of God to those of us who lead secular lives. Bryson alludes over and over again to emergence as a driving force in evolution. He doesn't really describe in much detail how that works, so I'm going to invite you to think of it this way. Things that were physically impossible and then highly improbable become more probable and then almost inevitable as conditions that favored earlier arrangements of matter and energy change. When conditions are ripe, previously unpredictable advances in the universe's complexity emerge over and over as other ways of being and other forms of existence go extinct. There has been no need for a God like the one in Jewish traditions to drive this process forward to the present. Yes, there are many mysteries about exactly how the Big Bang that led to the formation of the stars and galaxies and ultimately to planets becoming hospitable to life as we find it on Earth unfolded, and many, many more mysteries about what might happen in the future. But it doesn't seem likely at this point, from what we've learned, that miraculous forces outside of nature are the most reasonable explanation. There are now, for example, quite plausible theories about how self-replicating organisms emerged without divine intervention. But when you finally get to humankind, there may be a need for something adjacent to the traditional idea of God to emerge. Not all-knowing, but always nurturing the life-saving things that we see as forms of love: justice, compassion, beauty, forgiveness. There may be a need for a God of love to begin emerging from our collective intelligence to save us from extinction. What kind of God would this be? You're asking the wrong being if you're asking me or any human. It would be like asking a single brain cell what mindfulness emerges from a huge, uniquely involved collection of brain cells, what that would look like. We can't see all of the next level of emergence. Yes, because of emergence, there is a real science-based relationship between the underlying parts and the new whole that emerges. But from our perspective, there will always be mystery surrounding this God of love, whose presence is already perceived as real in the lives of many of us. And many of us talk as if we feel it, as if we know it. And if we talk that way, and if we're having conversation with it, then there is a reality to it. It might be more fruitful to ask each of us how we experience this God. I have an image of a force that enlarges us, enlarges our potential, enlarges who we are. It calls forth our capacity to respond to what is really a novel social impulse, on Earth at least, an impulse much more wide-ranging and compassionate in time and space than any of the amazing social survival skills that emerged long ago in, say, slime molds and ants and bees and other social creatures. Because the name God is so freighted with unhelpful connotations, I'm happy to call this much larger presence in the universe the spirit of life-giving love. But the name doesn't really matter. I believe some characteristics of our relationship with this God have been roughly intuited in our ancient religions. And my gut tells me that one of the most important is that we need to become more and more forgiving and more aware of our need for forgiveness. Not just the already difficult disciplines of forgiveness among individuals that are the usual focus of the High Holy Days, but also group dynamics that we haven't even begun to fully understand. How on earth can we seek forgiveness from future generations for the systems of multi-generational racism and environmental destruction that we are leaving to them? I can't tell you, but we need to get to work. The 7 generations perspective of some indigenous people seems like a good starting point, although even that might be short-sighted. I'm going to leave you with one final thought that is less radical, but for me, no less exciting. I don't think there is any better laboratory for this kind of work, this kind of looking toward and being in support of an emerging God of love, than a family of choice made up of people with faith in the power of love. It should be a family that brings together neighbors from many generations and many walks of life and welcomes visitors. It should be a family where race, gender, political beliefs, and so many other ways of seeing that divide us are noticed with respect for identity, but not given the power to close our hearts and minds. It should be a lot like our best hopes for CVUUS. May it be so, and may each of us be thrilled by the opportunity to be a part of it as this Jewish New Year begins. Blessed be, and amen. Sorry, do you want to tell us about your closing song? Why don't you go to the microphone you're going to sing from, because the people out on Zoom will hear better.
So the other piece that I'm going to be sharing is called Shimakolenu, and it translates literally to hear our voice, but it actually has a lot of the themes that you were just talking about in terms of it's really about hearing our voice as we connect with others, helping us return to these ideas of compassion and loving kindness and repairing relationships. And whatever your feelings about a God concept are, there's a lot of room in Judaism for making those sorts of endways into things. And you can sort of take the spiritual spectrum where you want to, but the core theme is about seeking this forgiveness, doing the repair work, and really trying to let those themes resonate throughout that reflective period that we're starting our year out with. So I will share with you now Shimakolenu. Hashivenu elecha
As you go forth this week and in the weeks to come, my prayer for you is that you not abandon reason, but that you not become a prisoner of your reason if it's telling you you need an answer. My prayer for you is that you become comfortable with the fact that you don't have all the answers, can't have all the answers, don't know all the people you've harmed, can't know all the people you've harmed, and then pick yourself up, say, I'm going to be a part of the beauty that could emerge in the next step. I'm going to wipe off my apron and see what love can do. Blessed be.